Alright, this video will go over how to use your 2B pencil to add the next stage of value. So we're going to do the same thing that we did before, where you start over here in the dark area, because that helps you to establish your pattern of marks and mark making. And I'm going to go over some of the value that I made with the 2H, but not all of it. So if you look at the reference, you can see how the value behind the car is lighter as it goes out. So I'm not going to let this value go all the way to the edge of the other value. I'm going to let it be loose and open so that it doesn't have a sharp line in between. And I'm going to go over here a little bit. Being really careful with where I add my 2B value so that it will create the shape. So this is the negative space in this drawing, and I'm trying to make sure that my negative space defines the outside of the object. And now I'm going to get in here and work on the tiny value on the side of the wheel. It looks like there's some dark right under here. And then I'm going to do some little hatches like that, real specific, tiny little hatches. Okay, feel pretty happy about that. This is already pretty light, and that looks pretty light, so I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to do a little bit here. I'm just crisping up that edge. Okay, I like that pretty well. Now I'm going to go around and kind of crisp up the edge over here. Okay, and then I'm going to pay attention to not covering up the drawing with my hand. Sorry about that. I start to get into this, it's hard sometimes. Alright, so then I'll go in there, and then now I'm going to add darkness into this little wheel, making sure that I'm maintaining the accurate directionality so that this looks like it's going in. I'm not just seesawing back and forth across it, but trying to describe the surface with the pencil that I'm using. I'm getting in there. I think I'm going to do all these little wells, and then I'll go do some on the surface. So what you can't see is my eyeballs going back and forth over and over to look at my drawing and then look at the reference. I look at my drawing and then I look at the reference, back and forth, back and forth. And then I'm going to go in here, do this nice tone. Okay, and I would like to start the value here for this. I will need to go into the 6B for the value on here. But not a lot, just a little bit. Our 6B stage is a lot shorter. And then now I'm going to go and just make it a little bit darker kind of throughout, because I'm reproducing a drawing. I'm trying to pay attention to where the strokes are going, but as long as the tone is pretty accurate, I'm not going to be too fussed if it isn't exactly in the spot, right? If you have a hatch that hatches instead of crosses and the tone is pretty accurate, then it's going to be okay. So now I'm going to go in here and do a little tone through there. This guy's going to have some tone on the side. There we go, around the side of his head, getting that background shading in. There we go, we're gonna go around. Getting a little bit in there, we're getting pretty close to being done with the 2H, or the, excuse me, the 2B. Just finishing up some crosshatch on this wheel. I'm going to have to go over the wheel with the 6B. The tone is not quite right, but that's just fine. And let's get a little darkness underneath here. And remember that in all your areas, you start with 2H, and then you do 2B, and then we're going to go back over it with more 2H, and then 6B, and then you have to look at it and see if you're done. You can't just decide, oh, well, I did all of the steps, so I guess I'm finished now. You have to look at it and be honest with yourself and see if you've gotten it yet or not. Okay, so that's the end of the 2B. After this, you can clean it up with your eraser if you have any overdraw areas, and then next we will shade a little with the 2H and go into it with the 6B.